on to part 2. This is reviews. Orange is the New Black Season 6. And firstly, I love Orange is the New Black, one of my favourite shows of all time. I think it's brilliant. Season 5 was it wasn't disappointing. I liked Season 5 quite a bit, but it wasn't as good as the first 4 seasons. It was a little different because it was one story stretched out across 13 episodes, which was too much, all about a riot. But it was still good, I thought, still very enjoyable. So Season 6 kind of gets back on track. It's much more traditional in its storytelling ways. There's more comedy this season, and the comedy's really good. It's really funny. It reminds us a bit more of Season 1 and 2, which had more comedy. Whereas in recent years, they've been going to darker areas, so they've been dealing with things like Nazism and stuff like that, and it's been a little heavy at times. So this season, back on form, I would say. Not quite as good as when it was at its best. There are only 2 disappointing elements of this season for me. The first is that half the cast from the first 5 seasons has simply vanished. They explain what's happened, you know what's happened, but it feels like they've unceremoniously just been removed from the show. Had I known that this was going to happen at the end of Season 5, the Season 5 finale would have been a bit more emotional, a bit more involving, because as it turns out, that was their big send-off, and now they're just gone. But the main characters, and you'll probably know who they are if you watch the show, are back, and some of the storylines are really interesting and fun this season, others feel a little unnecessary at times, a little dragged out. There's one involving the guards, where they're doing like a fantasy football thing, but with the prison inmates, which is a little silly, and it's not until the end where they really address how like twisted and bad it is that they're doing this, and it doesn't really have a huge payoff either. That's a little spoiler, but the other disappointing thing is the finale. The finale, a good episode, don't get us wrong, but I feel like they missed a good opportunity here, because something happens in the finale that's a little unexpected, a little out of nowhere, and it should have been this huge emotional moment. It should have been happy, should have been sad, but I just kind of felt nothing. And instead it left me wondering what's going to happen next season, because I don't want to spoil it. Something happens to a character and it leaves you with more questions than it does a happy, satisfying resolution. So yeah, Orange is the New Black Season 6, good. Not quite as good as it was at its best, but definitely an improvement over Season 5, which wasn't that bad, I don't think. Blockers. So Blockers is a comedy film about 3 parents with very different parenting styles. One's overprotective, one's overbearing, and one's like absent for most of that child's life. Prom night for the children comes along. The children make a pact to lose their virginity, and the parents find out about it and want to stop that happening. It's a little silly, a little odd, and if you've ever seen a comedy film, you know exactly what's going to happen. That's the biggest problem with this film, is that the storyline and the structure is so generic and unoriginal. You've got 3 characters, they get this really bizarre quest, they go on this quest, then when things look really bleak and bad for them, they have an argument, they fall out, only to then get together again, and towards the end, that's when you get a few surprises. They kind of succeed, maybe they do, maybe they don't, that's up for interpretation, but yeah, typical comedy film storyline, and that's the only big problem of the film. The cast is brilliant, all 6 of the actors are great. John Cena's probably the really surprising part, because this is his first like major leading role outside of a WWE film, and it turns out the guy can act, and the guy is really funny. As a comedy film, it's going to be very subjective. If you like gross out humor, if you like shock humor and body humor, this will be right up your alley, because it's really funny in that respect. The characters aren't necessarily going around saying one-liners or telling jokes, and the problem with this is that the film has these big moments where it is being funny, it is doing these huge like gross out moments, but everything in between is just not quite hitting it comedic wise. But the film moves along briskly, so it's not a huge problem. But yeah, it's very funny. That's all you really need from a comedy. I would recommend you watch it. And that's the reviews for this week. If you like that, give me a subscription on YouTube. 100 subscribers is my goal. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at @the_Grant Burton. Leave a comment. Follow me on Twitch. Get in the chat. There's no one in the chat right now, so I'm not going to talk about these films. And